Have you ever watched a dog hesitate before chasing a squirrel? Or seen a cat meticulously choose its napping spot, ignoring a perfectly good cushion for a sunbeam on the floor? In these small moments, we catch a glimpse of something fascinating. We see a flicker of decision-making, a pause that suggests more than simple reflex. For centuries, we have wondered about the inner lives of animals. What goes on behind those intelligent, curious eyes? Are they mere biological machines running on ancient programming? Or are they agents of their own lives, making choices, big and small? This question, once the domain of philosophers and poets, has now firmly entered the world of science, challenging us to look closer at the creatures with whom we share our planet. Before we can ask if animals have free will, we must first grapple with what the term even means. When you chose what to have for breakfast this morning, you likely felt that you could have chosen differently. Philosophers have debated the nature of free will for millennia, and there is little consensus. Some argue for a strong libertarian free will, where our choices are truly free from all prior causes. Others, known as compatibilists, believe that free will can coexist with determinism. For example, a hungry wolf might refrain from attacking a large, dangerous prey animal, even if its instincts scream hunt. It weighs the potential reward against the risk and makes a calculated decision. Therefore, when we explore free will in animals, we are searching for evidence of this kind of behavioral flexibility. To move beyond anecdotes and speculation, scientists need rigorous methods to test for choice in animals. One of the greatest challenges is designing experiments that can distinguish a deliberate choice from a simple learned response or a random behavior. One powerful approach involves studying what is known as self-control or delayed gratification. This is famously illustrated by the human marshmallow test. For instance, chimpanzees and cuttlefish have been shown to forego a small immediate food reward in favor of a much larger one later on. In a classic experiment, scientists studied the brain activity of fruit flies in a completely uniform white chamber, with no external cues to guide them. Researchers found that the patterns of their brain activity suggested a kind of internal, self-generated decision-making process, akin to what happens in the human brain just before we make a voluntary movement. Animal behavior is a beautiful and complex tapestry woven from two main threads, instinct and learning. A sea turtle hatchling does not need to be taught to crawl towards the ocean. The drive is embedded in its DNA. Similarly, a spider knows how to spin its intricate web without ever seeing another spider do it. Learning, on the other hand, is what allows an animal to adapt its behavior to its specific environment and experiences. A young bird might learn which colorful caterpillars are poisonous after one nasty experience, or a raccoon might learn that tipping over a certain type of dustbin yields the best leftovers. Instinct might tell a foraging bear to eat any berries it finds, but learning might teach it to focus on a particular patch where the berries are ripest, or to avoid an area where it once encountered a rival. Think of a dog trained to sit before receiving a treat. Its instinct is to grab the food immediately. Its training has taught it to wait. The moment it hesitates, body trembling with anticipation before finally sitting, is a moment of conflict between instinct and learning. It is easy to imagine a chimpanzee making a choice, but what about a creature as seemingly simple as a fruit fly? For a long time, insects were considered the ultimate biological robots, their actions dictated entirely by instinct and external cues. However, a series of ingenious experiments led by neuroscientist Bjorn Brems has challenged this view, suggesting that even flies possess a rudimentary form of free will. To test this, Brems and his team placed individual fruit flies inside a completely uniform white arena. In this sensory void, there was nothing for the flies to react to. Instead, the researchers observed that the flies continued to walk and fly, making sharp turns at unpredictable moments. The sequence of left and right turns followed a specific mathematical pattern known as levy flight. The researchers went a step further and analyzed the neural activity in the flies' brains. They found patterns of brain cell firing that resembled the readiness potential seen in humans. A fly that can generate unpredictable turns is better at exploring its environment, finding food, and escaping predators. In this context, a simple form of free will, the ability to be unpredictable, is a powerful evolutionary advantage, providing a way to outmaneuver both competitors and predators in a complex world. One of the most compelling arguments against animals being simple automatons is their proven ability to plan for the future. Planning involves imagining a future state that does not yet exist, and then taking a series of steps in the present to achieve that future goal. Western scrub jays, for instance, are known to cache food for later consumption. This behavior goes beyond simple hoarding. Studies by psychologist Nikki Clayton have shown that these jays remember what kind of food they stored, where they stored it, and how long ago they stored it. Even more impressively, if a jay knows it is being watched by another jay while caching its food, it will later return, when it is alone, and move the food to a new, secret location to prevent theft. At a zoo in Sweden, a chimpanzee named Santino was observed calmly gathering stones and pieces of concrete into neat piles. Hours later, when the zoo opened and visitors gathered, he would launch these projectiles at the crowd in a display of aggression. His actions in the calm of the morning were entirely in service of a goal he intended to carry out in the afternoon. When we compare the decision-making of humans and other animals, we find a fascinating mix of deep similarities and profound differences. At the most fundamental level, the biological hardware for making choices appears to be shared. The brain of a monkey deliberating over which piece of fruit to take shows patterns of activity in its prefrontal cortex that are strikingly similar to those in a human brain deciding which stock to invest in. Researchers have found that animals are susceptible to many of the same cognitive biases. Capuchin monkeys, for example, exhibit loss aversion, reacting more strongly to losing a grape than they do to gaining one. They also show framing effects, changing their preference for a particular researcher depending on whether that person is associated with giving a bonus food item or taking one away, even if the net result is the same. However, the differences are just as significant, and they largely revolve around the complexity and abstraction of our choices. Human free will is inextricably linked to language, culture, and symbolic thought. We can make choices about abstract concepts like justice, loyalty, or financial security. We can create laws, write novels, and develop scientific theories. Our decisions are guided not just by immediate needs and past experiences, but by a vast web of shared cultural knowledge, moral codes, and imagined futures. An animal's world of choice, as far as we can tell, is more concrete and immediate. Its decisions revolve around survival and well-being, finding food, securing a mate, avoiding danger, and navigating its social group. While a chimpanzee can plan to use a tool to get termites, it does not ponder the ethics of termite farming. So while the underlying mechanism of choosing A over B may be the same, the content and complexity of what A and B represent are worlds apart. So, do animals have free will? After journeying through the worlds of philosophy, neuroscience, and animal behavior, we find that the answer is not a simple yes or no. What we have discovered is a spectrum of autonomy. From the spontaneous turns of a fruit fly to the forward planning of a chimpanzee, we see countless examples of behavioral flexibility, spontaneity, and goal-directed action that defy simple, reflexive explanations. Of course, many questions remain unanswered. We are still at the very beginning of understanding the subjective experience of other animals. What does it feel like to be a bat navigating by sonar, or an octopus whose arms seem to have minds of their own? As our scientific tools become more sophisticated, we may be able to create more and more detailed maps of the neural processes of decision-making. But the leap from a map of brain activity to the experience of choosing is one we have not yet made, even for ourselves. Ultimately, why does this conversation matter? It matters because how we view animal minds profoundly shapes how we treat them. Acknowledging their capacity for choice, planning, and feeling changes our ethical relationship with them. It challenges us to see them not as objects for our use, but as fellow subjects, other beings with their own lives to live and their own preferences to pursue. This recognition does not just enrich our scientific understanding, it enriches our humanity. By being smart enough to investigate how smart animals are, we open our minds to the astonishing diversity of consciousness on our planet, and take a crucial step toward a more compassionate and respectful coexistence. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.